chérie, ça te dirait de venir boire un verre avec moi? On pourrait aller danser, tu vois, on va boire des verres, fumer des trucs et tout. Et puis éventuellement, peut-être qu'après, on pourrait s'embrasser, tu vois, genre sur la bouche.
That means on the mouth. That's what 5 years of French will get you. Hello, everybody. Happy day after Christmas. That was Sur la Bouche by Chuck Johnson. And it's a fun little song. And I got lots of fun stuff today. As usual, this is episode 70, if you're keeping track of my, whatever you want to call this, just channel where I talk about things that I find interesting. That's pretty much it. And then I put the links in the comment thingies, and then you can go and you can look and you can find them interesting too. Maybe. Or not. So, to recap, we have some recap stuff from the last time. If you remember episode 69, we were talking about how there is the South Atlantic magnetic anomaly, where the magnetic little blanket that kind of protects the Earth is like weird in one spot. Like it's not quite right. So it's significantly weaker. Scientists don't really know why. And this is has a weaker terrestrial magnetic field compared to other parts of the planet, resulting in critical impacts for navigation systems. So there was a decrease in the intensity of the magnetic field at the surface level of the AMAS. In addition, the center of the anomaly moved approximately 20 kilometers to the west, which is not good because if you look at the west, that's where the land is. The affected area, determined by the region within the 25,000 NT boundary, has increased by 7%. So they're saying it doesn't involve risks to human health or blah, 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 but it can damage satellites. So take it for what it's worth. I don't know. I think if there's like a hole in the magnetic blanket that's protecting the Earth, I mean, I don't know. That's just me, though. I'm not a scientist. We were talking about the Sakhalin Islands last time. Sakhalin Islands, which is, let me refresh your memory. I'm misspelling it horribly. I know I am. Sakhalin Islands. So, let me shrink myself. Why am I making myself so big? I'm a star. No, this stuff I talk about is a star. I just kind of put it all together. This is Sakhalin Islands. This is we have the Kuril Islands, then we have Japan. And remember we had discussed all of a sudden my cat wants to come up. We had discussed how all right, come on. It's like a whole thing. It's like a whole thing. What are you doing? I'm trying to talk about the Sakhalin Island. Island. It's singular. It's only one. And I was saying that Russia, to try to recoup some money, is maybe possibly thinking about selling off some land. And this might be a candidate. Look how big it is. It's huge. Surely Japan would love to have that huge bit of land. It's just above Sapporo. Doesn't look like it's super far away. Sorry, the cat's, she's making out with the bottom of my microphone. I don't know what's going on here. Okay. When she sits on my lap, I have to put my feet up so that my legs are elevated so that she has like a little cradle to sit in. I know, it's nuts. The things we do for our cats. So, Sakhalin Island. There we go. These are there's 3 different indigenous peoples, main indigenous peoples. I'm sure there might have been others that lived on this island. These are the Ainu, A-I-N-U, believed to be loosely related to, genetically, to the Eskimos. Our Eskimos in Alaska. Is that a proper term? Can you even say, is Eskimos politically correct? I should look that up. I should know. Is the term Eskimo outdated? Probably. Oh wow, look at that. The term Inuit has been the preferred term since 1980. 80. Guys. Not cool, Laura. Meaning me. That's my name. Laura, not cool. Right? So these are the Ainu. So these indigenous peoples lived on the island and, thrived in their own way with their own cultures, traditions, dress. Certainly not an easy life, I wouldn't think. It's kind of harsh up in there. But there's more pictures. This is at the tip. This faces Sapporo. And here we can see the Russians kind of coming in and taking over the architecture and the harbor and whatnot, because that's basically what happened. But it'll be in the links. You can look at all the pictures more thoroughly. I just kind of wanted to give you a quick overview, kind of a visual aid. So it was known as Karafuto before it became the Sakhalin Island. Sakhalin Island, or as the Japanese call it, Karafuto, was once the scene of a complex trade network that linked its native peoples with the Chinese Empire and beyond. Then, two encroaching foreign powers appeared, the Russian Empire and Tokugawa Japan. Karafuto became the nexus of the expanding boundaries of these two entities. As the two vied to bring Sakhalin into their sphere of influence, it was the native people of the island who paid the price. Eventually, after the Tokugawa samurai government fell to the modernizing Meiji imperialists, Japan ceded Sakhalin to the Russians. It became a prison island, a destination for exiles on the edge of the Russian Empire. And we have some more. This goes in more deeply. No, kitty, you can't go that way. I made a tree out of a camera tripod, and it actually came out pretty freaking good, if I must say so myself. I think I actually have a picture here somewhere. But it's a little delicate, so I don't want the cat to jump on it and touch it, because then, it'll fall over, and that would be bad. So there was a gentleman who was kind of aware of the fact that this was the island with a disappearing culture. He was fascinated with other cultures. Charles Henry Hawes, he was a British traveler. And he went there and he took a lot of famous pictures, and this is written sort of in the first person. Charles Henry Hawes' writings are not the most informed or detailed accounts of the lives of the Sakhalin's indigenous people at the start of the century. The Russian ethnographer Lev Sternberg and his Polish friend Bronislaw Pilsudski, both of whom lived on the island for years as political exiles, provided far more extensive and accurate information. And then, there's just some discussion about the island and the society. And in 1901, Hawes found himself almost by chance in a world on the cusp of massive change. The island of Sakhalin had been loosely linked to the outermost fringes of the Chinese Empire in the 17th and 18th centuries, and since the first half of the 19th century had become the focus of fierce imperial rivalries between Russia and Japan. Between 1855 and 1875, only 20 years, the island was under the joint control of these two emerging empires, and then it goes on. So, mostly with Henry Hawes are his pictures, not so much his discussion. His discussion, you can find probably better stuff elsewhere. But this guy, look at him, Rico Suave. He is ready to go. So that's him. So he told his story in pictures, and then the other guys that I mentioned are more actual, talking about the different cultures. Not just one as a whole. So this got me thinking, a place for exiles or something there. Why won't Russia sell it? Then I started looking at the geology, because I love geology. And I got to diatom assemblages from the Daginsky mud volcano sediments and their implication. And then I see the word in here, the only word I need to see, geothermal. So that tells me that there's a lot of volcanic activity in this area, which also tells me there might be some other stuff going on. So let's look. Why is this Arctic, desolate, and barren island the richest province in Russia? It's the richest province in Russia. I did not know that. I feel like the Wikipedia article explains it pretty well. As of the 2021 census, the oblast has a population of 500,000. Sakhalin Oblast is rich in natural gas and oil and is Russia's fourth wealthiest federal subject and wealthiest oblast. There you go. That's why. That's why. And it's actually been in the news, the Sakhalin Islands. I saw this recently. Oh, this is like 3 months ago. Russia moved their tanks from the island. So these are tanks that had probably been parked there from some other war that was probably several decades ago. And they came in and they snatched these up to sort of replace the ones that are probably being destroyed through a war. Here we have one of the Shell oil platforms off the northeast coast of Sakhalin. This goes into the politics about the oil and gas reserves, which is like a whole other story. Then you got so what's interesting to me about this and what this exposes is you have like the world, right? Like there's Americans, there's Russians, there's the Chinese, and we're all told we should feel a certain way about each other, right? Or, you know, we have certain preconceived notions. We have stereotypes. Even I have stereotypes. But then you read these business articles, and everybody's just rubbing elbows with everybody. Like, everybody's like best friends. Like, hey, man, we're just best friends. Like, there's nothing. So, like, why can't that trickle down? Well, of course, I know that the reason is because we need to be fighting each other so we don't fight the people that we need to fight. But that's a whole other topic for a whole other episode. So, of course, before I stop talking about Sakhalin, and I'll just include this other article. I don't really need to go into it. I just wanted to show you the photos. Is that the companies that are working there are not working under the best environmental standards. So they're polluting the area, they're polluting the water, they're polluting the land. Well, not so much the land because it's all like permafrost, but still. So anyhow, Sakhalin, there you go. Sakhalin! Now, speaking of kind of cold and sort of dark and kind of sad places, I came across this week and it made me sad. This is the Kazakhstan nuclear test site, also known as the Polygon. Here we have some pictures. It's Google, and you can see. And then don't look if you're sensitive to people with severe deformities. But this is a resident of the Polygon. Yes. So, this is also known as Semipalatinsk Nuclear Test Site. And there's actually two of them. There's one here, and then I think there's another one. Oh, it's not showing up on this map for some reason. But there's two main areas that they blasted pretty freaking good. Like they would blast one and then go to the other site and then blast that one up, and then so it was just this area. You know, and looking at it, you know, it looks pretty remote, right? But then you have Kazilduk. That's a village. People live there. If there's nuclear bombs going off right here, like what is that doing to the people of the village? Oh, here's the other site. We've got some targets painted on the ground. Some really big holes. Prior to 1990, Semipalatinsk, also known as Semi, was one of the numerous closed cities of the Soviet Union. Only high-ranking officials of the Politburo knew about the goings-on in these cities. Nobody except those few with clearance were allowed to enter or leave these areas, and these closed cities did not even appear on maps or road signs. When the Cold War ended, most of these closed cities were abolished, and the secrets they concealed became known to the public. While most of these places were only strategic military locations or sensitive mining areas, some of these places hid terrible secrets, like Semi. The polygon was the primary nuclear test site of the Soviet Union. In total, 456 nuclear tests have been conducted between 1949 and 1989 at Semipalatinsk, including 340 underground and 116 atmospheric explosions. Together, the number of nuclear explosions equals more than 2,500 Hiroshima bombs. A huge number of craters, partly filled with water, testified to these experiments. It was not the only nuclear test site of the Soviet Union, but it was the only one close to major settlements. The Soviet Union conducted these nuclear tests without regard to the health effects on the 200,000 residents of the area who weren't evacuated or warned. Local residents soon became aware and witnessed health problems soon after the first tests. Cancer rates skyrocketed, and within a couple of years, a disturbing number of children with genetic defects were born. There was nothing the people could do about it, since they were not allowed to leave the boundary of the closed city area. Closed city area means you can't leave. So finally, there was like a movement. They said, okay, 1989, okay, we'll stop. We won't do that anymore. But it's still heavily populated. 18,000 square kilometers is heavily contaminated, and 1.5 million people have been diagnosed with health problems that can be attributed directly or indirectly to the nuclear tests. Even today, people continue to live there, and few people have been able to move away. Those who stay continue to rely on contaminated local crops and water, and even dismantle structures of the polygon to obtain scrap metal they can sell. 1 in 20 children are born with severe birth defects, and almost none of the other 19 are born healthy. There is a documentary in 2010, After the Apocalypse, that describes the site. This site is cancer. So this is an article you probably want to open up in another. Here, I'll show you. Never mind. Let me do it for you. 12-foot ladder. Yeah, the site is terrible. So, the surviving inhabitants, foreign, blah, blah, blah. We already went over that. But the documentary, really, the guy goes in, he talks to the people. You know, there's some, it's just devastating to think about. This is 50 hours in the most nuke place on Earth erased from maps. I think this is a YouTube guy. One woman who unknowingly witnessed hundreds of nuclear bombs go off in her youth explains, "We didn't know it was so bad." It's wild, right? Wild to think about. And he had to find people that were willing to talk about it, because a lot of people were like, "Well, I'm not going to talk about that. Heck no." So, just interesting. 1989, not that long ago. In 1989, I was... Here are some more photos. And I'll put the rest in the links, because this is really depressing. But there's some archive developments, like what's happened since it got closed. And as a final little nugget on this story, there was gold that was found there. There's 60 tons of gold reserves in the fields that they bombed. So good job, guys. So in other words, let's talk about less stressful stuff. So there's a village in Lebanon where people, we talked about, I think last time, Punjab, people put stuff on their roofs. This is Lebanon. So with Lebanon, it's not just about putting stuff on the roof. It's making your house unusual. So here we have the pyramid house, the airplane house. This is a private pool. It looks like something out of ancient Rome, a Greek temple. Excuse me, Greek. The airplane house is seen from a distance. This looks like a French country estate. Even on the inside. I love the creativity. I think it's wonderful. So there's more photos on this woman's website. She has lots of interesting photos. So my place is a little weird, which is kind of why I like it, because it's on top of the stores below, and then there's like a courtyard up here and stuff, and I think that's kind of cool. I have a thing for courtyards. If I had like lots and lots of money, I would have a house with a courtyard. I wouldn't super decorate it. I wouldn't like go crazy making it extravagant, but it would have a courtyard. Unusual homes from around the world. This is eye candy for you guys to just look at. This is a toilet-shaped house, which is okay. So this guy lived in the top apartment. Then he started planting stuff. And so it turns out that he has built another level on top of the roof, which is above his apartment. So he's got his apartment, all the plants and stuff, and he's just kind of built up illegally, not illegally, not legally. But that's kind of neat. They have failed to find the owner. There was a guy who did this amazing thing, and then they went to bust him, and he disappeared. I think that's fabulous. But I have, while I was looking at houses, I did actually manage to find my dream house of the week. You know, I kind of have a dream house of the week. It would be this one. Chateau Lorenz, a captivating Art Nouveau masterpiece in dreamy colors. It is dreamy colors. We have the oranges and the blues and the yellows. I prefer Art Deco over Art Nouveau, but this particular property is pretty well done. It's not too like over the top. Art Nouveau can sometimes, in my mind, get like just too busy. There's just too much going on. Look at this corner bench. Isn't that not wild? Oh. The stained glass window. Can you imagine living in such luxury? I cannot imagine. Although I have had the good fortune of being in luxurious places and doing luxurious things, but by and large, my life has been very humble. Certainly have never stayed in a place like this. This is amazing. Incredible piece of property. So that's the one I wanted for Christmas, but Santa didn't bring to me. I looked under the tripod tree, and it wasn't there, so oh well, guys. Here we have an owl getting loved on. Oh, he's so cute. I didn't know owls could be affectionate like that. This guy is like, he's just loving it. Look, he's smiling. He's like, yay, I'm getting a head rub. I actually do that with my cat, with my nose. Rub my cat with my nose. She likes it. We rub heads. It's very like primal, rubbing heads together. Moving on. We're getting ready to move into conspiracy territory, and we're going to get there by talking about the geologic history of the southwestern U.S. So the Southwest, as you may or may not know, is it here? Where is it? Here? I think I went too far. I went too far! Here it is. Nope, here it is. So here we have the map, right? Wait a minute. What's the shape of New Mexico? Which one? Ah! Oh my God! What the hell did I just do? one is New Mexico? That's terrible. Oh my God. I need to go back to school. Okay, so New Mexico is here. So what we're looking at is Kansas. Anyhow, this is what it used to look like out there. So there's been a lot of changes in this area. And this seaway did at one point shrink to the point where there was, water, but maybe not quite as much water, and then blah, blah, blah. Why am I talking about this? Because right now in that part of the world there is not as much water, but in the past there was more water, much like the Sahara Desert. Untold Arizona, tracing the ancient origins of Arizona rivers. In medieval Europe, all roads led to Rome. In Arizona, all rivers lead to the Colorado. In fact, it's no exaggeration to say the state of Arizona lies almost entirely within the Colorado River drainage basin, which also sprawls across southwestern Wyoming and down through parts of Utah, Colorado, Nevada, California, and New Mexico. Were it not for the vast system of dams and irrigations that lock up their waters and put them to work, the Gila and Salt rivers, along with the Verde River to the north, would drain the Mogollon Rim and mountain ranges, wash their waters down through the canyons and valleys, and deliver them to the Gulf of California. So this is how the water used to go. We changed it, but around 2 to 3 million years ago, the big rivers in that area appeared, and it corresponds to the onset of the wetter, colder Quaternary period around 2.6 million years ago. So there's question about the hydrologic history and the timing of people living there and when the rivers first arrived and what path they took. But anyhow, my only point is that there was a lot going on in that area in the past. And they found 26,000-year-old human footprints in New Mexico in the mud. And I know I've talked about this story before, but I just find it incredible because in history textbooks in school right now, they don't learn that that human history in the United States goes back 26,000 years. That's not a date that is given. So like everything kind of needs to be changed, right? There we have the footprints. And the neat thing about the footprints is in looking at them, they see footprints of people, of animals. At one point they can tell that like sort of there was a child kind of skipping along and there was an adult with other kids like kind of ahead. And it's a snapshot of life 26,000 years ago. It might even be older than that, but that is the accepted date academically. So here we have some more of the footprints. So this will be in the links for you to look at. So 26,000 years ago, there were people running around there. This is the Reddit post. Human footprints have been found in New Mexico's White Sands National Park. Oh, this says 23,000. I've heard different dates. We'll go to 23,000. I've heard 26. So someone goes, wait, what are the implications of this? It sets back the first confirmed instance of human habitation in the Americas by 10,000 years. It means that human habitation probably predates the creation of the Bering land bridge and likely puts the final nail into the coffin of the land bridge exclusive theory of the peopling of Americas. That's not to say that people never crossed that particular land bridge, but there's really no way that was the only way people got to the Americas, or even that there's really no way that it was the first way they did. This is mostly because we can pretty accurately date the creation of the land bridge to 20,000 years ago. So having confirmed footprints 3,000 miles away from Beringia 3,000 years before the bridge was created means that they had to have had arrived some other way. Additionally, it more or less confirms a lot of the circumstantial evidence and theories, including the words of the indigenous tribes of both North America and South America, who have a vast and deep oral history, that most archaeologists had long since accepted, that points to the fact that there have been people here a lot longer than science was willing to believe without evidence. Well, now there's evidence, so nobody has to believe anything anymore because it's confirmed. So, but have you heard about it? Is it in common Like, is it out there? Like, people that actually, like, live in the world and do stuff? Not people like me that hide out in their apartment and post-medieval cats and do stuff like this. So somebody said, well, how did they get here? So that you have the Pacific Highway hypothesis, South America up through into North America, all kinds of different ways. But if there was a river going through North America, people could have come on down there, right? A desert dig has revealed a stunning ancient campsite on an Air Force base. A team of geomorphologists discovered an 8,200-year-old campsite on Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico, and they also found 70 artifacts. So 8,000 years ago, people hanging out. Not quite as significant as 23,000 years ago, but it shows that there's just so much history there, and I think there's a lot of history that's like neglected. Like, I think we need to go over that whole area with like LiDAR, just LiDAR the crap out of it. Now, talking about missile bases and ranges and whatnot, Springfield man says he was at White Sands Missile Range when he saw a UFO in 1959. I'm not into conspiracy theories, but I have to wonder, was it coincidence that editor Amos Bridges mentioned that UFO stories were drawing big online audiences at other USA Today network sites, and only days later, Jack Hembry stopped me after church to report he once saw a UFO? It made me think, what do I really know about Hembry? Well, he's 92 years old, has a wife named Carolyn, bunch of kids. I was in the Korean War in the field artillery, thus the hearing aids, and in Vietnam. In total, he was in the Army 22 years. On February 17, 1959, he was a captain at White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. It's a military testing area operated by the Army, originally established as the White Sands Proving Ground on July 9, 1945. The first atomic bomb, codenamed Trinity, was test detonated there on July 16, 1945. In 1959, World War II was behind us. We were engaged in the Cold War with what was then called the Soviet Union, now called Russia. Hembry worked on the Redstone missile project. The PGM-11 Redstone was the first large American ballistic missile. It was in active service in the Army in West Germany from June 1958 to 1964. At White Sands, Hembry was the launch pad and control safety officer. Launches had a countdown of 33 hours, he says. He and several others stayed the night in a blockhouse near the launch site. The launch was controlled from within the blockhouse. His normal residence at the time was with his wife and 2 children in his family barracks back at White Sands. Hembry was up at sunrise that morning to inspect the site and to begin the fueling process. The launch was several hours off. He was standing near the missile tower, which was near the guided missile. The launch tower was on railroad tracks and could be moved. Later, prior to launch, it could be moved farther back. All of a sudden, I saw this huge bright object, and of course, it was not supposed to be there. What I thought it was is that it was a fireball. It was a globe-looking thing, but it wasn't flaming. It was very bright, and you could see through it. He saw 3 globes that moved as if connected. Each was about 30 feet in diameter. They were low at my eye level. You could see through them. It seems to me there was a pause. Did you see anything inside the globes? No, he says. They were bright yet transparent. The globes, which he estimated were about 150 feet away, departed in unison at a high rate of speed and moved over the other test launch site on the grounds and quickly flew out of sight. The whole thing had to have taken place in 30 to 40 seconds. Did anyone else see it? Therein lies the problem. No. Did you file a report? No. Were you drinking? No. Did you take notes? No. Did you tell anyone? My wife. Did the local radar detect anything? I don't know. I never checked. Ever told a reporter? No, just you. So, this is a man who, 22 years in the military, saw something that looked like an orb that he didn't know and that he didn't understand. And this kind of segues into a little bit more UFO talk. So if you've been following the local news or the world news, you know that there's a drone flap in New Jersey. Flap means like a bunch. But people are saying they're seeing ships, triangle craft, orbs, orbs that transform into drones, drones that transform into orbs, orbs that are grouped together. And at the same time, it's Christmas, so you got like fireworks, and then you've got hobbyist drones, and so there's a whole lot going on. So hold that thought in your head, what we just talked about seeing the orbs, okay? But before we go to the orbs, we're going to talk about Jonathan Lovett. While searching for missiles with a fellow U.S. Air Force, the military was last seen in a frightening situation. I think this might have been written by AI. But in 1956, there was a soldier, and he went to collect material waste to analyze the missile collision after an explosives test. So there's an explosives test. They went out to test whatever was left over. They took a jeep to the dunes of White Sands, so we're still talking about White Sands. When they reached the point they believed to locate the wreckage, both parted in opposite directions, trying to observe the remains of the rocket. Minutes later, out of Cunningham's field of vision, Lovett gave a haunting scream. The major believed that initially the sergeant had been bitten by a snake, but he was surprised to see Lovett grabbed by a cable attached to his leg, pulling him into a vehicle never before seen by the military. The vehicle was shaped like a disc, rounded edges, but flat at its two vertical tips, and was a gleaming silver color, and it was hovering in the air about 20 feet off the ground with no signs of instability. It was in this vehicle that Cunningham saw his teammate dragged. After being dragged in a few seconds into the unidentified flying object, the spacecraft took off, throwing a lot of sand in the dunes quickly leaving a round mark. The major didn't think twice. He ran to the jeep and reported everything he had seen over the radio, and it did not register anything on the radar. In the days following the search, the team distrusted the coworker as Lovett's murderer, and that in the middle of the sand dunes he had hidden his body. However, in the vicinity where the pair carried out the searches, no footprints were found, no blood or trace of human activity. The ship's imprint on the dune had also been moved by the wind, which filled the hole with sand. On the third day, the team was surprised by the discovery of Jonathan Lovett's body 16 kilometers from the airbase. However, it was completely mutilated, with several members severed. In his face, his eyes had been removed, and the tongue had been removed by the jaw. His identification was made possible by hair and teeth. Along his body, an incision was made in the neck from the tip of his chin to the region of his esophagus and larynx. Most surprising were his genitals, which were surgically removed, as well as his anus, which was impressively open, widened to the colon, and with twisted organs visible through the hole in the rectum. In addition, the autopsy concluded that he had a good part of his blood drained mechanically. So, what? The Air Force extensive investigation resulted in a document called Project Grudge Report 13, which allegedly has more than 600 pages seeking to clarify what happened. So, what is interesting, though, is that this has been reported in Brazil, and that people have been taken up, they've had their skin peeled off, all kinds of stuff. So, in Colares, Brazil, there's a case of a UFO simply launching a beam of light at people and draining their blood nearly to death. This happened to almost 400 people ranging from various ages. It got to the point where the mayor had to ask the federal government for help, and so they sent many troops to investigate. Long story short, the investigation by the militaries had to end due to orders from the United States. The name of this case is Operacio Prato. Like, have you ever heard of that before? I've never heard of that before. Here's some more stuff about Lovett and Project Grudge Report 13 or whatever the heck it's called. So what do you think? You think there are things out there? Maybe? This is from 1952, and there were multiple sightings of identified flying objects. See, multiple flying objects above the Capitol. Now, if I go to, not there. If I go to UFOs, and I don't even have to look for it, I can just scroll down, or maybe not, because there's a lot. But there is a post of the White House that's almost identical to the picture that's in that newspaper. Of course, I can't find it now. Here we go. Washington. Woohoo. Let's see. Let's do the White House. Now I'm not going to be able to find it. People are saying stuff is being removed, but I don't know. Anyhow, the point of all of this is that there are there's stuff happening that we don't understand. There's things in our skies that cannot be detected thermally. They can operate for long periods of time. Some of them are noiseless. People have reported a cube in a sphere. Just wild, wild stuff. Now, what's really interesting, going back to the orb at the beginning when I said, remember the orb? That is the same thing that I've seen right out there. In fact, I saw it yesterday. I looked out and I caught it. My guy thinks it's related to the airport, that it might be a drone. There's like a little airport, not like a big one, but like for like rich people with like little, rich people that have planes, small planes, not like big ass planes, but so maybe not super rich people, but like mildly rich people. Certainly, yeah, because you have to be rich to own a plane, right? Most definitely. So what's up there? Who knows? There's stuff going on. I think I need to do more of these episodes, though, to keep up with it, because I feel like we're living in extraordinary times, for sure. But can you believe that we have actually come to the end? We made it through. As you can see from my list here, I'm up to 85 stuff I find interesting, but it's actually probably like 95, because each one of these has like, I just like put stuff in there, I'm demented. I just find everything interesting is what it comes down to. But this UFO stuff is really interesting, because when I was a kid, man, I was obsessed with aliens and spaceships, and who knows? There's talk that they are trans-dimensional, meaning they're not from this dimension. So what does that mean? That's like a whole other thing. Then you have scientists talking about the plasmoid beings, that perhaps they're just plasmoids. They're a new form of life that we have not yet we hadn't identified before. Maybe this form of life is able to exist because of certain conditions with the sun and I don't know. I'm just riffing. But I hope everybody had a good Christmas. Mine was decent. I cannot complain. The kids at school were really great. I got lots of presents. Ate way too much food. Like, way too much food. Got a little sick. Had like some kind of flu bug, which is still kind of stuck with me. You'll notice that the hair is short. I cut it all off. Actually, what happened is I tried to cut it myself, and I messed it up so bad, I had no choice but to go and get it fixed. I said to the woman, cut my hair, don't make me look like a Karen. So I think she succeeded. So we're going to look at this site, this live journal site, Old Master Paintings, while we listen to some Formal Access. And then we'll close out. This is one of my favorite songs, as you guys know. This came out during COVID. These dudes did the song. Wow, look at that. Look at that. Wow. Definitely not IKEA, right, guys? St. George and the Dragon. Our favorite. Look at that horse, though. He's kind of funky looking. I have the day off, and I was like, wow, I have the day off. I could like redo my whole bedroom, redo my closet. But then I was like, yesterday was Christmas. It's my day off, so I'm going to do one of these episodes and talk to y'all. And then I'm going to probably play video games. Maybe talk to my sister. That's pretty much it. Yesterday was a lot. Only because I find people so tiresome now. I don't know what happened to me. It's like I can't even deal. I don't know if it's menopause, I don't know if it's getting older, but like, I'm pretty content right here in my little bubble. My guy and I had a fight, which is like really uncommon, but we had a fight, and I was like, I'll leave. I was like, I don't care. I'll just go. And I mean it.
Very fancy.
I got no time in this life to be miserable. I think actually, in all seriousness, before I finish off, I think what has happened, and this ties into the live mental health thing that I did, which I don't want to go back and watch because it's too embarrassing. I hate watching myself. But for a long time, I ran like different jobs, different relationships, changing all the time. I had to always be moving, had to always be out of the house, had to always be doing something, couldn't be in at night, had to stay up late, didn't want to go to sleep ever. Like, that was me. That was me. And that was the result of complex and prolonged trauma as a child. That was my coping mechanism, was to run and to change and to not be still. Well, I think about probably 5 years ago, maybe 4, thanks to COVID, sitting around having a lot of time to talk to myself, I hit some kind of wall. And I was like, okay, wow, this is my life. I'm stable now. Stable job, stable man, stable place, not running. Definitely not running. And this is the most I've ever been one place. This is the most I've ever been with one person, including my biological family, which is wild. Like, I was with my biological family for 12 years, and then, so I think I'm just settling down and figuring out who I am and what I want to do, if I want to do anything. Right now, the consensus is I don't want to do anything. But honestly, a lot of my really bad attitude is from the world and politics and what I see happening with the rich people, and it's been going on for quite some time. I've been feeling this way probably for 20 to 25 years, ever since I worked for that really rich guy and I got a glimpse into the world of the rich. It blew my mind. I was like, wow, this is not cool. I didn't like what I saw. And the contempt that our government seems to have for us is what bothers me the most, especially with vulnerable populations, because they don't deserve that. So, sorry for my rant, and it's not a right wing, left wing, it's both wings. I think the whole system, and I know I keep talking about this at the end of every episode, but I think it's important for us to keep talking about it and to talk about what we do want in a government. Definitely not an oligarchy, because that's what we have. Even without Trump coming into office, we have an oligarchy right now, because we have Israel, who spent, like $25 million to make sure that certain candidates, people got put into place. Then you have, corporations paying enough money to put certain people into place. Like, the people aren't voting anymore. It's the big corporations. All of our food comes from one of 6 different places. That's it. That's where our food comes from. Anyway, I'm getting myself all wound up again. Anyhow, the important thing is we're all upright. We're here. We're relatively healthy. I hope everybody watching this is relatively healthy. If I had magical powers, I would bless everybody with money and health and all of the things. But I don't. So, with that, I'm going to close out.
I don't know. I can't predict the future.